News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Full and total coordination between, on every level, to condemn Israel for a strike that accidentally hit and killed a bunch of aid workers. Now, what's unbelievable and just filthy is that we in Afghanistan, do you remember when we killed all those aid workers? We killed 10 aid workers. We killed a man, an Afghan man who was bringing water. He's an aid worker full-time, and his children. In a drone strike attack that was hailed as awesome and excellent. And then days later it came out that Joe Biden and his military killed about 10 people that were aid workers. And did you hear anybody telling the United States to denounce it and say, get out now, ceasefire now? Did you hear anybody do that? Did you hear us do that? No. This is a joke. It's hypocritical. It's pathetic. Second of all, the lies that's saying that there's 10,000 civilians killed in Gaza is a lie. Those are numbers from the Hamas ministry, and I read an in-depth piece today from the Journal that said the Hamas ministry gets them from quote-unquote media reports, and the media reports get their information from media reports. There is no official tally, and including the 30,000 are 13 to 18,000 terrorists. They don't distinguish. So when you hear 30 or 35 or 32, that is a lie. Between 13 and 20,000 of those are terrorists. There are civilian casualties, but check this out. The UN says, the UN's own words and research and what they've published, the UN says in urban combat, right, urban warfare, that for every one combatant that is killed, 9 civilians die. For every one combatant, 9 civilians die. That's what the UN says. What the numbers are when there is urban war, casualties of war, 9 dead civilians for every one military combatant killed. Israel has blown those numbers out of the water. Israel death numbers, Israel kills for every one terrorist Israel kills, 1.5 civilians die. 1 for 1.5. 1 for 1.5. Yet the UN says it's 1 for 9. So we meaning Israel. Israel is literally like 4.5 times lower than what the regular average statistics show from the UN for urban warfare. Do you understand this? What they have done has never been pulled off. And what they did in accidentally killing aid workers in Gaza is exactly what we did in Afghanistan. And the Biden administration are hypocrites. Biden is terrified because of his political losses in Michigan, his political losses in Wisconsin, across the country. He tried to hump the legs of Muslims around during the Ramadan time right now and have a dinner. What's it called? I want to make sure I say it right. He was going to have for the holy month of Ramadan, a feast. And many of the people that he was going to meet with, iftar, many of the top Muslim leaders he was going to meet with said, we're not coming because how can we talk to you about famine and starvation over bread and steak? 3 top doctors who were in Gaza that are Americans were in a meeting with Joe. One of them walked out. He's out of Chicago, and he said, I'm not going to be sitting here and talking with Joe for these policies. He walked out and handed him a letter from an 8-year-old who lives in Palestine. So Joe Biden is being attacked. He's being threatened. The emergency room doctor said, and then I asked to be excused in the meeting with Biden out of respect for my community who's mourning, who's grieving, and who has really wanted to be heard and has felt silenced and excluded in this entire time. Before leaving, the doctor gave Mr. Biden a letter from an 8-year-old orphan in Rafah. So here's what I want to tell you. Not a Dr. Jill said in a meeting with Black Muslim Leadership Council in front of Joe, she said to him, stop it now with the war. She was shocked, the black Muslim Leadership Council lady that said that. She was shocked that she said that out loud in front of others. The co-chair for Biden re-election campaign, Chris Chris Coons, he took over the Senate seat for Biden. That's why he's like their besties. He was like his intern, I think, before. He worked for him as a clerk or something for Biden. And he says, at what point does a policy change? He's saying it's time for U.S. conditions to be put on Israeli aid. You have the general, one of the top generals for Biden, saying that this is like really roundly attacking what was done roundly attacking the Israelis. So here, Pentagon chief blasts Israeli counterpart on phone call. Lloyd Austin outraged by Tel Aviv's failures. Yeah? Well, where were you when you killed 10 Afghanis? Here's Major General, not Major General Jack King, but here is Martha McCallum interviewing John Kirby today. My questions for you, as we also found out this afternoon that the United States is preparing for significant Iranian attack on U.S. or Israeli assets in the region as soon as next week. Senior officials in the U.S. and Iran believe that, and Israel believe that Iran is going to have an inevitable strike, a big strike on either us or Israel in the Middle East, directly to Israel or us, and it's going to happen sometime next week, and that could be a big war broadening thing. Do you want Israel to ignore the President Biden, on his demand for a ceasefire and finish the job of destroying Hamas, as I want? And are you willing, are you okay, are you fearing, I should say, a strike by Iran on us or Israel? Are you fearing that? Do you think that could lead to a wider war? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Now, the number I wanted to tell you, the magic number, is how many Gazans support Hamas after they raped, murdered, sexually tortured, butchered, beheaded babies, women, raped babies and children and women, and have systematically been sexually torturing and sexually raping, raping women, Israeli women in custody that they've kidnapped. Still, right now, they're doing it according to the UN. And 72% of every Gazan, according to Reuters and a recent poll they reported on like a couple weeks ago, 72%, almost three-fourths of every person that lives in Gaza supports Hamas, still loves them after they killed all the Jews, tortured them, raped them, and kidnapped them. They still love them. That's what we're dealing with. Do you understand me? 72% of every Gazan loves Hamas, loves that they raped Jews, loves that they kidnapped them, beheaded them. After gang raping some of these women on the terrorist attack, they shot and mutilated their genitals, this is satanic what they've done. And Joe Biden has literally handed them a victory, Hamas a victory. Here's Major General Jack King, and you're going to hear Admiral John Kirby, the spokesperson for the National Security Advisor.
But Hamas, in those negotiations, has been quite impossible to deal with. Now, what have we done? We just strengthened Hamas's hand rather dramatically.
There you go. Strengthen Hamas's hand. Great job, Joey.
So there were 7 children that were killed by that U.S. Hellfire missile.
Yeah.
No accountability, you said, was part of the plan. So
okay, that's Martha McCallum calling out John Kirby. You killed 7 Afghan aid workers and children in a Hellfire missile strike, and you said no accountability, nobody's going to be punished for it on the United States, even though we did it. And you're denouncing Israel for doing the same thing. Hold on.
Why is this so different than what we did there?
But these are two different events.
They're not that different, though, John.
I know. I understand that the outcome. I get the outcome.
But why? So this was a trigger moment, it appears, for the White House, because obviously that the momentum has been building to take a harder line against Israel and their tactics. But this was the event that really pushed things over the edge. And so why is it so different in terms of what Israel carried out in the midst of war?
Exactly.
As has been said, whoever saves a life saves the entire world. That's our strength. It's what distinguishes us from terrorists like Hamas. If we lose that reverence for human life, we risk becoming indistinguishable from those we confront.
Does he believe that Israel is now less distinguishable from Hamas?
Of course not.
Well, that sounds like what he's saying,
That's
John.
the Secretary of State for Joe Biden literally saying that Israel's no different from Hamas. You sick, you know what's. How dare you? How dare you? And then here's this.
Don't you think Iran looks at this development and says, great, the U.S. is urging Israel to cool this whole thing down, and that's going to provide a great opportunity for us.
If I was in Iran and the supreme leader and that's what I thought, then I think I'd need to read a little bit closer, because that's not what we're saying. They would be wrong to come to that conclusion.
Joe Biden has handed Hamas a tremendous victory and Iran a tremendous victory. He is blessing them, and he is now on their side over Israel, point blank. He wants them to be left alone while Israel sits there and is shamed and humiliated for an attack, even though the United States did the same thing in Afghanistan, killing aid workers, just the same darn thing, and never held anybody accountable. At least Israel fired 2 people today from the military and took admitted guilt, said, we're wrong, we're sorry, we apologize. Now, the last thing I'm going to tell you is this. What we have also is one more thing. The last thing I wanted to tell you is what the Wall Street Journal says today. Biden exploits a tragic Israeli mistake. Biden exploits it. Quote, the message, the Journal says, Hamas will take away is clear. Keep rejecting hostage deals. Do whatever you can to worsen the humanitarian catastrophe, and watch Mr. Biden blame and pressure Israel to compromise on its war aims. Amen, Wall Street Journal. Shame on Joe Biden. He has sold out Israel. The Jews are alone right now, and I want them to finish the job and kill those terrorists. Up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, Puff Daddy, or Sean Diddy Combs. It is really looking worse. More people coming out with filing lawsuits and complaints of sexual trafficking or sexual abuse. Bodyguard saying Diddy has every room taped and bugged. Politicians, princes, and preachers are all implicated. Holy cow. That's next. All right, this is really bad for Puff Daddy. Really bad. More stuff coming out. A lawsuit today, Thursday, filed in L.A. by a woman who says that Sean Puffy Combs' son, Christian, sexually assaulted her in 2022. She also accuses him of aiding and abetting Puffy Combs, Sean, of aiding and abetting his son, Christian, afterwards. She says she was working on a yacht chartered by Diddy, served dinner, drinks to guests. While she'd originally been told the yacht experience would be a wholesome family excursion, it turned into a hardcore party scene, drug use, constant rotation of suspected sex workers. Some of the drinks were drugged. She believes some women stumbling, even passing out after one drink. At one point, the woman was informed that Sean Combs' son, who's a rapper, would be coming aboard and use the music studio on the yacht. She said when he arrived, he was heavily intoxicated, began giving her special attention, encouraging her to take tequila shots with him. She agreed, took one shot, said she quickly suspected the tequila was drugged. She began fearful of him, and alleged that after that he began groping her. Audio recordings reportedly say that she has been heard refusing Christian Puffy Combs' son advances and telling him repeatedly to stop touching her. He then asked to help him find a place to sleep. She showed him into the cinema where the others sometimes slept, groped her again, undressed, allegedly attempted to force her to perform oral sex on him, grabbing her arms, leaving bruises shown in photos in the suit. Former bodyguard for Sean Puffy Combs, Gene Deal, says the rapper, this is separate today, from Breitbart, the rapper and politicians, princes, he had politicians, princes, and preachers in his house. For certain gatherings, there may be video footage, he said, of these individuals engaging in salacious or illicit activities. I will tell you that T.D. Jakes, the mega pastor from South Dallas, is listed in he's named in a lawsuit against Puffy Combs. I don't know if he's the minister they're alleging, but he is a massive guy in that world. So who knows what this is going to be? Is the Reverend Al Sharpton going to be in there? The former bodyguard says, I don't think it's only celebrities that are going to be shook. He had politicians in there. He had princes in there. Also a couple of preachers in there. There's footage of illicit activities taking place inside of Combs' house, he says. Well, my personal opinion is that the producer, Lil Rod, who's the first one to start a lot of this, well, not one of the first, but one of the big ones that has come out recently, he could be trusted. His statements are true, that if that's true, they got him, he says. They got tapes and stuff. Lil Rod says in his affidavit that Diddy had every room taped and bugged. Can you imagine, former bodyguard said he had every room taped and bugged, and they found them in the house. A new lawsuit also says that One more thing here. I got this one. Chris Hansen, I should say. Chris Hansen, remember him from Dateline, To Catch a Predator? Now he has a different show. He was on Fox News. He said Puff Daddy, the allegation show, he was drunk with power like Epstein. Like Epstein. That's my questions for you. Do you think Sean Diddy Combs will end up being taken down like Epstein? And do you think he'll end up in prison like Epstein? And hopefully he won't have somebody, knock him off and make it look like a suicide, right? My Epstein ornament. It shows a picture of Epstein and says this ornament didn't hang itself. Okay? I don't know, but I think that it's possible that he's going to end up being the next Epstein. Shocking, isn't it? Shocking. These allegations. He was successful in doing... our number, by the way, is 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Do you think Sean Diddy Combs is going to end up being taken down like Epstein? Do you think he'll end up in prison like Epstein? 800-288-WBAP. He's very successful in doing that, she said, with power and money and such, giving him credibility. It made him a lot of money, gave him credibility outside of the hip-hop rap world. That's what he was trying to do here. A lot that Jeffrey Epstein did with very powerful political and business figures. Same thing he told Jesse Waters. Chris Hansen continued on. These guys get drunk with power. Allegedly, Diddy said that these allegations are false, but they get drunk with power, and all of a sudden, they lose their balance, what's right and what's wrong. I've talked about that. I've literally said that. When you get this kind of wealth and power, your issues that you have are, we all have issues, whatever they be, vice, gambling, alcohol, sex, and those things we have within us, that sin that we have within us, is amplified by umpteen degrees by the more money you have and the more power, because you get away with it more and more until eventually you're overtly corrupt and you eventually get taken down, and when you finally get sobered up and you realize what you've done and that you've been caught dead in the water, then you realize how obvious it was and how wrong you were to do what you did. But only after you're in a jail, sitting in a jail. It's like in Lord of the Rings when the Gandalf, or whatever his name is, loses the precious, or when he gets the precious on his ring. When he gets the precious, the ring taken off his finger, he realizes, what the heck was wrong with me? I don't want to be that way. But it's too late then. So, man, there's a lot of stuff here. You got sex trafficking allegations. Law enforcement's told the New York Post you have an alleged drug mule, 25, arrested on suspicion of cocaine and marijuana possession in Miami. He was allegedly Puffy's drug mule. One date of the month since the producer for Puffy, former Little Rod Jones, and videographer and producer for Puffy, former, filed an explosive lawsuit claiming he sexually assaulted him from over a year. Alex in Arlington, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP. Alex, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to give my opinion on this situation.
Yeah.
So, my thing is, you have Epstein that ended up with no life. Okay, he allegedly hung himself.
Yeah.
And then you have, P. Diddy, just like you said, I think there should be a 24-hour watch on this man. I think there should be no bail. I think he needs to be behind bars as a preliminary measure. I know it's going to be difficult, but I think that needs to happen right away. And I think there needs to be a 24-hour watch, maybe, lots of things going on just to prevent that from happening.
And we got to keep Hillary with sunglasses and a mustache, away from him, right? Like with Epstein.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I agree with you that if he's arrested and charged, they have to keep him under total watch because they'll do the same thing. And I don't know. Do you believe this could be the next Epstein? Does it seem like it possibly really is?
I think it could be even worse. It seems like Diddy has touched every single facet of Hollywood, New York, everywhere. So it could even be worse. And that's my biggest concern is what else is there to uncover? Possibly
turning into a high-end sex trafficker like Epstein. It's shocking and sickening revelations. Thank you for your call. Coming up next, Ken in Arlington, plus your call at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. A very top well-known A-list celebrity expecting a subpoena over this. I'll tell you which one it is in the Puffy thing, and more details on some of the other sex trafficking allegations. It's bad. All that next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Also, despite better economic numbers, Americans are not feeling better. Why? We'll talk about if you feel any relief, as if we're supposedly seeing it in the better economic numbers and that kind of stuff, and how bad things are right now physically. It's bad. It's worse than maybe we even realize it. I got some stuff to share with you, unfortunately. It's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. In just a few, the economy. This is very interesting. Despite better economic numbers, supposedly, Americans are not feeling better. Why? Fascinating analysis that I'll share with you coming up in just a few from the Wall Street Journal. Also, grocery prices are nearing nearly 40% higher right now than 2019. Calls for help coming from above the poverty line to hotlines. This is unbelievable. Calls for help. Also, they say they never have heard from more people who earn too much to qualify. And housing prices, stores closing, all that coming up next with the economy. All right, but first, Ashton Kutcher is the A-list celebrity that is expecting a subpoena over his, quote, good friend Diddy's sex trafficking probe, as his wife, Mila Kunis, bans him from speaking to Puffy months after they were slammed for supporting a convicted rapist, Danny Masterson. That's interesting. Here's another thing. Before we go to your call, including Ken in Arlington, who's called in, my question for you is, do you think Sean Diddy Combs will end up being taken down like Epstein? Do you think he'll end up in prison like Epstein? And hopefully, unfortunately, like Epstein, he doesn't get knocked off. From Fox News, Sean Diddy Combs cannot settle with the feds amid sex trafficking probe. Why? Civil lawsuits accusing him of trafficking sex, guns, and drugs. First lawsuit settled by R&B singer Cassie, his ex-girlfriend. A day after she filed it, he settled it, but she came forward afterwards. 3 other women, at least, and a man, including a female who would have been under 18 at the time of the alleged sexual assault, have also come out and made claims and filed, I believe, civil action lawsuits against him. Also, one of the surviving victims from a shooting in a New York City nightclub where J-Lo was there, if you recall that one way back when, told News Nation last week she watched Sean Puffy Combs shoot her in the face, not the man who was charged with it, Mr. Clyde Barrow, I think is his name. I literally watched him pull out the guns, and I had a clear point of view. For God's sake, I got shot in my nose. Other evidence from other civil suits filed likely play a role in the federal investigation. Fox News says that could turn out to be crucial in a potential criminal case. They'll use a lot more of the same evidence to build their case. Cassie Ventura, the R&B artist, she settled her lawsuit and had accused also Combs of forcing her to carry a gun for him. She said that the mogul was often displayed. Rodney Jones, the producer, also alleges that Puffy was often displaying and distributing guns in his presence in order to maintain dominion and control over other people. I believe this. I don't know. We don't know the truth, but I believe it. And I believe that he is going to be the next Epstein. The feds don't do what they did if they don't have some good stuff on them. And one of the allegations from the former bodyguard is that there's a lot of stuff on tape, audio, and video of high-profile people, whether he said pastors, actors, all sorts of celebrities, rappers, and politicians even. So this is appearing to be the new Epstein as of right now. Ken in Arlington, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Hey, Chris, it'd be interesting to find out if the same ones that were on the Epstein list are on the P. Diddy list.
Oh, like the same people partaking in alleged trafficking?
Right, because Epstein Island closed down, so they had to go someplace else.
This, I swear, this could be one of these things. Do you remember also there was that madam, Heidi Fleiss, who had that really high-profile list of clients, and was a prostitute, or she prostituted women. She was a mistress or whatever for women. And she had a list and all that stuff. So I think this probably goes on a lot more than we realize. And I think that the reason why this could be the next Epstein, and appears to be it in the making, is because of this probably being a lot more common than we would think over the years and decades and such, with Hollywood, with money, with power, with influence.
It'd be interesting to find out if T.D. Jakes is on that list, if he pulls a Jerry Falwell. Remember what Jerry Falwell did?
Tell me what I remember.
Forgive me, for I have sinned.
Yeah, exactly. On TV, crying and weeping, and Tammy Faye, his wife.
It felt so good while I was doing it, but I sinned. So, and I'm not saying T.T. Jakes did it, but there's allegations of everything.
He has been named in a lawsuit against Diddy Combs. So, and some of the allegations that came out yesterday and today say in these published news reports that there are pastors and other politicians and celebrities that are involved in this. So who knows? It's not good to have your name on there for T.D. Jakes. It ain't good to have it in a lawsuit. Not good at all.
No. I'm on the WBAP list as a frequent caller, so.
Exactly. Yes. That is okay. It is not illegal.
That's a good list.
This is a very good list. You get gifts in your stocking. You don't get
I'm
cold.
a multiple caller, not a first-time caller. So
That's exactly
you need to get it, something for the multiple.
I have something for you as a multiple caller. Okay. There you go.
There you go.
Ticket ordered. Your ticket. You've been served, sir. Thank you very much.
That's the James Stewart movie. I'm getting my wings.
There you go. You got your wings, Ken.
All right,
brother. Talk to you.
Night.
You too. Okay. Now the economy. Greg Ip writes a column that sometimes is very interesting, and on this one, he wrote, "What's wrong with the economy?" in the Wall Street Journal. It's you, not the data. Many Americans believe the economy and their finances are worse than they really are. How? This is very interesting. A recently released Brookings Institution study by Harvard economist sheds light on how exactly people think and feel about inflation, finding that half respondents defined inflation correctly as rising prices. However, they said price gouging and overpriced everything is what they talked about, too, with inflation. So some people might conflate high prices with high inflation, but enough to explain our survey results? Doubtful. He says the gap between vibes and facts goes well beyond inflation, suggesting choice of words is not the explanation for such a dour mood. Here we go. So a large chunk of journal poll respondents think their investments, retirement savings were in the wrong direction in the past year. Continuing on, average customer retirement account grew 19% last year. However, it didn't make up for the 20% decline. Also, by more than 2 to 1, people say the economy had gotten worse rather than gotten better over the past 2 years. As the saying goes, you cannot eat gross domestic product or GDP. What you eat is part of GDP, while people have said for years they are cutting back on groceries and eating out. Data shows Americans as a whole spending more on groceries and restaurant meals. So there's evidence, even though inflation is high, people actually do notice things getting better around them. However, what they say is they may rate their own state's economy as good or better. However, voters tend to assign low marks to Congress, but high marks to their own representatives. Definition says a good Congress depends a lot on your politics, whereas definition of a good economy ought to be somewhat objective. However, it's not. Bad vibes is what he says about inflation and the economy are interlaced with a deeper pessimism about the country. The study from the Harvard economist shows inflation evokes broader feelings of injustice. People are believing prices rise faster than wages. Companies raise prices because they can, but don't raise wages because they don't have to. While inflation generates bad feelings about the country or the economy, might make them more pessimistic about inflation. So, if the views on inflation are a function of broader pessimism, where does it come from? The media is what they say. Anyways, what they're saying is you might think it's fine in your state. You might think things, but it's the overall mood that you have and the fact that you're going to the store and you're spending more on things and then you haven't gotten as much pay keeping up with the inflation. It's still crappy. That's one of the explanations he said. I'll give you a little more detail on that coming up next. It's a little murky still. It's kind of a weird, long explanation, but I'll give you a little bit better one that's just more succinct coming up next. But also, calls coming in to 211 are much higher now from people above the poverty line. People that can afford to supposedly live are calling for help a lot more now. Dallas Fed says, I wouldn't think about cutting rates anytime soon. What does $100 have for you at the grocery store? It's not good. Housing affordability totally collapsed, and we may have a recession soon. We'll get into that coming up next. My questions for you on all this. Do you feel any relief as we're supposedly seeing better economic numbers? Are you feeling any relief? And why do you think people still feel terribly about the economy in America? Why? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. That's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Okay, these numbers are astounding. By the way, it's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Two lines open. The questions are, do you feel any relief as we are supposedly seeing better economic numbers? And why do you think people still feel terribly about the economy in America? Let's go to Charlie in Decatur. You're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's up, brother?
So, yes, I am going out to eat, everything like that. I am still living the lifestyle I lived before. But I had to pick up a second full-time job. So I hardly get to see my family. I work, 80, 90 more plus, hours a week.
Yep, go ahead, sorry.
And it's rough because I'm not just going to lay down and lose all my stuff because we have a dumbass in office. Excuse me, an idiot in office.
Right. No, it is.
But it's a strain. I mean, I don't want to lose my stuff. I got 17 acres. I got a ranch. I got stuff like that. I've worked so hard to get.
But, here's what I want to say. I think you're absolutely right. You having to work an extra job, tons of extra money, do the same thing. I'm finding, sorry about that. I'm finding with my extra incomes from doing fill-ins on other station, it's pretty good. But I'm going to tell you right now, I feel like we're just getting by. It's insane. When we were not just getting by, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we were not. It's insane.
I have 2 full-time jobs and I'm adding nothing to my savings.
That's exactly
from my paycheck out.
Right. That's exactly how many, many, many people feel. Great call, Charlie. I appreciate you very much. Well, here's, by the way, how far $100 goes at the grocery store after 5 years of food inflation from the Wall Street Journal. Beef to mayo, consumer spend, continue to spend more.
$100, you could put it in one sack.
That's less. Yes, correct. Look at this. Beef to mayo, consumers continue to spend more and buy less. Grocery prices up 1% in February from the year before, but they were 10.2% from February 2023. And up 1.2% in 2019. So 1.2% increase, 10.2% increase, 1% increase. It never stops. And prices for hundreds of grocery items have increased more than 50% since 2019 as food companies raise their prices. The Journal shows what was $100 is now $134, and how you got to take out all these critical things like meat, bacon and such to have it at 100, and you lose all these things. You scroll down and it keeps more and more go out of the basket. You're exactly right. What was 2 or 3 sacks is now 1. Go ahead.
Look at the bright side. It's an election year, so things are going to go down.
Yeah.
It's only down. It's not really down. They jacked it up so high, and then they brought it down to say, "Oh, we brought it down."
But the numbers never went down on the prices. They never went down. They skyrocketed. They're slowing down on the skyrocketing, but they're never going lower, and they never have. Charlie, great call. Randy and McKinney, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Yeah, I agree, and great question tonight. This is a great one, and I think I'm not feeling any necessarily relief at all with improved numbers, and you can make these numbers lie any way you want these numbers to lie, but what your last caller in Decatur was just telling you is a common story, I think, for a lot of people around there having to pick up extra job, extra work. But I think the part of it that's really, really interesting to me is that when we look at government spending since 2019 to fiscal year 2023, it is nearly double what the government is spending on everything. And so when you start dumping that much money into the economy,
Inflation.
you're just going to continue to see inflation go up and up and up and up and up. And there is no relief to that. You can talk about jobs, employment, this, that, or the other, but
doesn't matter.
The bottom dollar, the bottom line is that it's just not going to help until something is done to curb the amount of cash that's out there for people to.
That's exactly right. And the jobs numbers today were supposedly so wonderful. But one of the things I saw was that one of the reasons the numbers are so high in jobs because, quote, immigrants, meaning most likely illegals, probably, I mean, that's who's been coming in, 9 million plus for 3.5 years. Also, I mean, you're exactly right about that the numbers are still high, and we have not gotten commensurate salary increases year after year with these raises. And so we're having to work extra jobs for the same thing, for less. The
Republican Party must and has to in this election cycle point out those specific things to why a conservative approach to spending is so important.
I agree.
Because every time you take a policy issue on oil and energy, it's going to drive up costs. Every time you tell the American people we're going to tax the rich, it's going to drive up costs. Every time you tell them that businesses are not paying their fair share, the businesses are going to pass that on to the people. It's just a failed policy that they continue to
remember keep. And they're doubling and tripling, quadrupling down month after month, year after year. Remember what my friend and sponsor and CPA Randy Martin from IRSprob.com said last night. Those 80,000 IRS agents are going after 63% of the people they're going after are people making combined income under 200 grand or less, not 400 plus. They lied, he lies, and it's wrong. Great call. Danny in Nevada, you're on WBAP. Danny, you there?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually traveling towards Laughlin, Nevada.
Okay.
You know there.
Can you hold? I don't want to rush this, and I'm being told I popped you on a little too late. Can you hold for the next?
Right on.
Yeah, you the man. All right. Also, several other lines open. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Sorry about that, Danny. I jumped on with you, and I was like, wait, it's too late. My fault. We're going to talk about more numbers on inflation, why it clearly generates bad feelings about the economy in the country, make it more pessimistic for inflation. Also, the calls keep coming in right now for help for people, for United Way, for food, and they don't qualify for it. Dallas Fed saying we're not going to be cutting rates anytime soon today. She said, do you feel any relief as we're supposedly seeing better economic numbers? And why do you think people still feel terribly about the economy in America? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. I want to hear from you. Also, I want to tell you, so that's all coming up next, plus that information. Oh, and housing affordability has totally collapsed. That just came out from CNBC. All that next.